Are you experiencing uneven tire wear on one or more of your RV tires?
Well, it might not be improper tire pressure. There are several other factors that could be at play. Keep watching because this just might be a solution to your unusual tire wear that you thought was your axle.
Hey, we're Rose and Glenn.
And we're Reset Your Journey, and today we are back with our friend Steve, the road hero. He taught us several other factors that could be at play other than improper tire pressure. First of all, it could be your bearings. They could be loose, they could be worn out, but an early symptom could be uneven tire wear. Second, it could be a misalignment in the mounting brackets or the axle itself. And third, it's unlikely, but it could be the shocks. And lastly, it could be worn out suspension parts. Okay, so what if your trailer's brand new and you're showing uneven tire wear? Well, we can rule out most of the other potential causes and say that it's most likely a misalignment under those circumstances.
In our last DIY video with Steve, we determined that we had an alignment problem with the rear wheel on the passenger side of our travel trailer. And that was the tire that we replaced back in June of 2021.
Well, we got it checked out in Yuma, and the shop said it was most likely the bushings on a MORRyde CRE 3000 suspension system.
Since Steve and his son-in-law replaced them before on their outdoors RV travel trailer, we decided to do it ourselves with their help. Keep watching as we take you step by step through this process, and what we found was shocking. We wanted to first introduce you to Bryan. This is Steve's son-in-law, and he has done the replacement on the shackles before. He has an outdoors RV, so he's here to help out as well.
Hey guys. The one thing that we're not going to be doing, we're not going to use any pneumatic or electrical assist on removing any of the bolts or nuts. Reason for that is we're going to show you how to do it without those, because a lot of people out there don't have access to pneumatic tools. For example, an impact wrench or a impact hammer. So we're going to do all that by hand. The type tools that we need is just some standard wrenches, ranging from 11/16 to 13/16 and 3/4 inch socket for removing the lug nuts. We have some breaker bars pre-set up because I have all these hand tools, so we're not searching and hunting for tools. We're going to have a hammer, and that is to drive out the old bushings. If you had the pneumatic hammer, you could drive out those bushings with it. We did have to improvise a punch in order to drive the bushings out of the leaf springs themselves. The end of the 3/8 drive extension is the same diameter as the bushing. So you can drive the old bushings out with this tool. So we are going to improvise doing that. You are going to need a torque wrench because the wet bolts nuts are torqued to 40 foot-pounds. And of course, your lug nuts are torqued 110 to 120 foot-pounds. We'll require a grease gun, and that's to lubricate the wet bolts after they're installed. I'll show you why they call these a wet bolt. Have a zerk fitting on the end of the bolt, and then inside the bolt, you'll see a small hole drilled approximately center in the bolt. When you pump grease in here, what happens as you're pumping the grease is pumped in between the bushing and the bolt, which that's what lubricates the system where it rotates freely. We're going to be jacking the trailer shortly. Lynn has already started loosening the lug nuts, so we're on board with that. That's kind of a basic rundown from tools. We have some very high winds today, and for that reason, we're not going to jack the trailer so high that it lifts the wheels off the ground with the trailer. We're going to jack and secure the trailer and support it with jack stands and blocks. And then we're going to go under the U-bolts of the axles, raise the wheels up just high enough to pull the tires off. And then we'll lower that axle. We're going to do that at all 4 points. So that's basically why we're doing it this way.
All right, looks like we're good. All right, so we'll drop the stabilizers down, not to support any weight, just to stabilize against the winds since we're on these jack stands.
Just lowering this Not, once again, not to support any weight, just to give it more security and in these higher winds. And we're there.
I get it. Sometimes it's nice to have a guide to go to and not just the video to watch. So I will also write an article that covers all the tools we used and the steps that we took, and I'll post that at resetyourjourney.com under blogs, and I'll also put the link in the description.
Now that the trailer is on jack stands and it's fully secure, we're going to go under the U-bolts of each axle behind each tire, and we're going to just jack the tire up high enough to get it where we can get it off. And we're going to do both sides at the same time. That way there's not a lot of stress or sideways pressure on either one of the portions of the axle. Only purpose in doing it this way is so we can drop the axle so it's free floating. It has to be free floating in order to remove the bushings and the wet bolts. Now, I checked all 4 points of the jack stands to make sure that nothing moved in the process of lowering the wheels down. Now the axles are free floating where we can actually get under there and start removing the wet bolts. We're going to use hand tools to do this, and once again, that's because not everybody has pneumatic air tools or electric type impact wrenches. If you have those, I would certainly say use them. It's going to make the job easier, but it's doable by hand. You're taking the nut off one side. Okay. On all of these right now, the nut's on the opposite side of your Zerk fittings. So to keep the bolt from spinning, you're going to have a wrench on one side and then somebody to hold it, which makes it a whole lot easier for the guy doing it, and then a breaker bar on the other side until they're loose enough to take off the rest of the way.
Bryan, are we going to take one out and then replace it immediately with the new one and then move to the next one?
No, we're going to let it drop and float so we can see inside.
Okay.
These 2 bolts are pressed into this link, and these 2 are pressed into this link. So in order to take this off, you loosen or remove both nuts on both these. That whole assembly will drive off at once. To take the pressure off your arms.
Sweet.
Look at all that play right in here, up and down play. The bushing inside here is basically gone.
Yeah, that shouldn't be playing.
There shouldn't be any play.
Any movement? Didn't think so. Good catch.
Bam!
Look at that.
Yep.
It's worn out. Bushings. You always hear bushings on the ORV forum. There you have it. Beautiful.
It's a little worn. If you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to follow more of our adventures where we overcome other challenges along the way. Let's get back to the video.
This is the extension, 3/8 drive extension, and we have ground down to a pretty flat surface, and we're going to use this extension instead of a punch to remove the bushings. Bushings can be removed from either position, either outside in or inside out. Align that tool right there along that bushing.
Bang away.
And just start pounding. And it may take quite a bit to get that to knock out.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Look at that. Actually, that's pretty worn out.
It's worn. It's good it's being replaced. Now that we have all the bushings out, we're ready to install the new bushings on the springs. The new CRE 3000 comes with pre-installed bushings, which makes it very nice that those bushings don't have to be installed. They're already installed. So that's going to end up leaving us a total of 6 spare bushings for future use. We're going to use a C-clamp and the bushing, and the C-clamp will press the bushing in. You don't want to beat these in with a hammer because you could damage the ends of the bushings themselves. Also, we are pre-lubing the bolts. However, that isn't really necessary. I like doing it that way the grease may have a little more uniform flow around it once they're installed and there's a little bit of pressure on them.
Let's do this.
Start it with your finger in the hole just a little bit. Feel it start to go in. You take your C-clamp. You go to the far side with the, there you go, and run that down until you're on the bushing and run it in until it stops. Do that at all 4 points. You will have new bushings installed.
Standing. Now that one was well lubed, so it went in easy.
Yep.
This one.
You just want to try to make sure it's as parallel as possible.
This one is tight.
On some of the installations of the wet bolts, on the trailers that are a little bit larger, for example, I have a 24 RLS, and the diameter of my tires won't allow me to get a grease gun comfortably on any of the Zerk fittings from the outside. So the recommendation is to install these from the inside out. That way you can lay under the trailer and lubricate all of your Zerk fittings at one time. In the case of this trailer, the diameter of the wheels and tires allow you to get to all 7 positions for lubrication easily. So we're going to put them back in from outboard in.
Zip.
It won't go in any further right now because they have serrations in the area around the bolt that they're pressed in. That occurs when you torque the nuts down. Then we'll hold off and torque them all together when they're all installed. This is just so, it probably isn't necessary, but I like doing it that way. When you go to lubricate, there's already a slight film of lubrication on it, and where there's dry metal to metal with no lube, my theory is that it may not allow the grease flow as easy. This may help it flow the grease around inside the bushing.
Why are you
Bad
doing
dance.
a happy dance?
Because we got them all in.
That one went on so easy.
Now I do want to say that we did not put on camera that this one, the leaf spring inside, was corroded, so we had to file it. And this rat tail file, in about 6 hours of Steve working it, okay, maybe not 6 hours,
Time lapse.
made the difference. But we put a bushing in there that should not have gone in there because we used a lot of pressure to put it in, and it warped it. And upon warping it, we could no longer get the bolt in. So we had to file it out.
We now have all the new wet bolts installed. The system on this side is finished with the exception of final lube. We're going to go ahead and lube each Zerk fitting, wipe them clean, and this side will be done. We'll be ready to move to the other side. Everything we've done on this side is an exact repeat on the other side. This is really rusted on there bad. There's no bushing in there at all, pretty much. Look. Wow. And this is the side that it showed up on the ruler.
Yes, it
is
is.
having an alignment problem.
Oh, I wonder why, huh?
Yeah. So, how do we get that off? This shackle was corroded so bad that no matter what we did, we could not get the bolt out. We did not have a cutting torch in order to heat it up real well or anything. So we had to use a hacksaw and cut through the bolt. But once we did that, it came off. down, buddy, you're down.
Woo! I'm glad it's done.
Look how pretty that is.
Shiny and pretty, ready to get dirty again.
Let's go mess it up. I like this torque wrench.
Is that our new one?
Yes.
We're going to do a final alignment check after we've rolled forward a few feet. This is after replacing all the bushings and new shackles. The alignment problem they had before, we're checking to see if it's gone now. At all 4 points of the tires that this ruler touches, if it's less than 1/8 of an inch at any point, that's perfect. Anything over that, 3/8, 1/2 inch, then we still have a problem. So we're going to check that now.
It's touching everywhere.
That's perfect.
That's right. All right, now the culprit.
Wow. 1/16 of an inch at the most.
Nothing like it was.
Which is perfect. Beautiful. I definitely want to give a shout out and a really big thank you to Steve the Road Hero and his son-in-law Bryan for all the great information today and all the help they gave us.
So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video.